Hello and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones and it's so good to have you here. Today we're going to be talking to a former New Jersey governor, and we're also going to be taking a look at New Jersey's plastic bag ban, which is now in full effect. We're going to break it down, what it means and how it affects businesses, shoppers, and even food banks. Standing by is Joanne Gamenden. She is the Executive Director of New Jersey Clean Communities.
Rosemary Becky is the founder of Jersey First, an advocacy group aimed at making New Jersey more affordable.
First, though, we have the 51st governor of New Jersey, Don DeFrancesco, who was also president of the New Jersey State Senate from 1992 until 2002. Governor Don DeFrancesco, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you.
Well, pleasure to be here. Good to see you.
Well, this past November, we saw some big shifts in the New Jersey State Senate. So, as having been the president of the Senate as well as governor, can you talk a little bit about what happens when a longtime Senate president like Steve Sweeney leaves and new leadership takes over?
Well, yes. Well, in their case, the majority didn't change, so it's a little different in my case. And but with Nick Scutari being from North Jersey as a Senate leader, it does change the picture a little bit because the focus will be swing back to Union, Middlesex, Essex in terms of the politics of the Democratic Party, as well as the what's going on with respect to the budget and the state of New Jersey. So the South takes a little hit with Steve Sweeney not being in play.
Yeah. And it's got to be very different, because that was a surprise to so many people and probably still being felt.
I think it's still a surprise to people, because as you know, a certain lobby effort was made against him in the past, and he survived. Now, having said all of that, and Steve, I consider him a friend of mine. Steve is in an area which has always been middle of the road. Not necessarily lean Democrat or lean Republican, but a Republican can win, because remember that was Jack Collins' district. He was assemblyman there for many years. And so was his running mate. So it was kind of a split district for all those years. So they do kind of lean Republican at times. And I guess this election, there must have been a couple of issues that hit hard. And in the South, Jack Ciattarelli did very well.
Yeah.
And he carried some of those counties, and it carried down to the legislature.
Yeah. Well, do you think Steve Sweeney will be back?
He talks about it. I think it'd be very difficult for him to make a comeback with respect to Senate president, and even winning the district again. I'm not sure that might be his plan. His plan might be to run for governor. His plan might also be maybe be a congressman someday, but so I don't know what his plan is. I think he's going to come back in some form. He's going to try to come back, in some way.
Right. Well, definitely want to talk a little bit about the midterm election, other elections coming up in New Jersey, but more immediate. Right now in Trenton, it is budget season. Governor Murphy's laid out his own priorities for the state. And one of the things that made a lot of headlines was that $700 rebate for taxpayers, for the majority of taxpayers in New Jersey. Some say, hey, that's great, getting money back. Others say it's a bit of a gimmick. What do you think?
I think it's good. I think I weigh in on the side of it's a good thing. Giving money back is never a bad thing. Other governors have done it in one form or another. And when you have a lot of money, you should give back to the taxpayers. Does it solve the real estate tax problem? No. Does it solve any of the other tax issues? No. It's just giving. You have a lot of money. You're giving back some of it to the people who presumably need it.
Right. Now, as far as the governor's priorities go, currently there's a package of gun bills, gun safety measures that Governor Murphy wants passed. So as far as what we know so far about what that package looks like and as implications for gun owners in the state, do you think fighting for this is the best use of the governor's time as he is a second-term governor?
Well, I know why he's doing it, but we do have very difficult gun laws, among the most difficult in the country, and we always have when I was there. And I guess he's coming up with some kind of a little plan to make some minor changes. But I would focus more on keeping people in the state, economic development, dealing with the problem he has for the most part with respect to the middle income people is the tax issue. You want to be more competitive with Pennsylvania, obviously with New York and Delaware and Connecticut in that area. You can't be way far and above everybody else in your tax burden. And we have a heavy tax burden in a lot of different ways. So I think I would focus more on that, because he does have plenty of money that has been rolling in. And I would, the $750, I get that, but I think I would probably tweak some of the tax issues to attract business, to keep people in New Jersey. I do more of that, of that, less of let's not worry about the gun guys, because we have very strict gun laws now. And I don't own a gun. As you know, I was never a gun. The NRA didn't like me either. But I would stay away from that, because we do have difficult laws. Yeah.
Right, right. And as you know, as far as some of the other priorities go, we've had New Jersey Business and Industry Association on, we've had Chamber of Commerce, and small businesses across the board. They really feel like that they're hurting, and they can't keep employees, they can't recruit, they can't keep them. And you touched on that. So what should the governor be doing to help those businesses not only stay in business, but get people get people back to work?
Right. Yeah. There isn't a company, small or big, that you talk to who aren't having trouble finding people to work. So that's across the board. But I think you're right. I mean, restaurants, for example, all small business are struggling to keep people, and so the governor, there could be some good avenues for small business for him to help in some way to retain and attract people. I think that would be a major focus, and that would help economic activity in New Jersey. That would help the middle class. I mean, I think it would go a long way. But we see it all the time. Every store you go into, and particularly along the coast, they're looking for people all the time. And as a leader, you need to try to help deal with that.
Right. I mean, affordability is a persistent, it has always been an issue in New Jersey. Do you see anything happening right now within the Republican, Democratic side that actually is addressing affordability, so people can not only live here, work here, retire here too? They're leaving.
I don't see it. I mean, they could look at the pensions. People who have pensions move out of state because we tax their pensions. They could deal perhaps a little better with the real estate tax in some way for older people. I know that there are a lot of older people who do benefit from a program we put into place 20 years ago, the freeze on taxes. But maybe you can expand that and try to keep people here. That's what I think I would do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's shift gears a little bit more to the election, and midterms coming up this fall. Is there an expectation that New Jersey could lean a little bit more to the right? And what issues do you believe will be really driving people to the polls come November?
Yeah, I think, we only have local elections and county elections in New Jersey this year, where we run in the off year. So, but those elections will because we have we have congressional candidates on the ballot. So those elections will go with the trends. And I think trending, particularly in suburban areas, is way on the Republican side, for a little bit middle to the right. I think issues about schools, about taxes, the COVID issue, small business, there's a lot of inflation. All of these issues are going to help local candidates on the Republican side and county candidates on the Republican side, and certainly people like Tom Kean and other Republican candidates that are running. There are a host of issues nationally that are going to help them in this race. So I think it's looking at this point in time to be a pretty good year for Republicans. The independents will lean Republican this year. And I think they'll make some gains. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as far as Governor Murphy goes, there's always talk about governors in New Jersey running for president. Now, you yourself took over when Governor Whitman left to become EPA administrator under President George Bush, 43. So what do you think about that? Do you think he's going to?
Presumably, because we never had a lieutenant governor before. Right. It was very difficult in the past. For example, Tom Kean, when he was governor, had a Senate president who was Democrat. So it was very difficult for him to leave. in Governor Whitman's case, she did run for the U.S. Senate for a short period of time, but then changed her mind. So I think that Governor Murphy, why wouldn't he test the waters? Why wouldn't he look at it? It is kind of, when you get past Kamala Harris, it's kind of wide open on the Democratic side. They're looking for candidates. They're looking for people of his ilk, particularly. And I think that why wouldn't he test the waters? I mean, I think probably it makes sense. It's hard to do that. We learned that from the past, as you know. It's hard to be a sitting governor and be running for another position at the same time.
Well, that would be my next question is we do have a lieutenant governor now. We have Sheila Oliver. So what would happen if he decides that he wants to more than test the water? Do you think he would have to leave and let her take over? Go ahead.
No, I don't think he would leave. I think, but he'd certainly be leaving the state a lot, just as Chris Christie did. And Sheila would become more active, obviously, in the legislative end and on the executive end, because you can't wear two hats and can't do a great job at both. So would it be better if he served his 2 terms and then ran for president after that? Yes, but Chris Christie chose not to do that, and if he might feel that this is his time, Phil Murphy. So I don't blame him if he tests the waters a little bit and maybe go to a couple of these early states.
Yeah. So possibly we could see 2 New Jersey governors, Murphy and Chris Christie, which kind of goes back to 2000 when Bill Bradley and Steve Forbes, even though Steve Forbes wasn't a governor, but 2 Jersey people were on. That was one of the first presidential campaigns I covered was Steve Forbes, as well as former Senator Bill Bradley. Yeah. I
forgot about the Steve Forbes angle. Yes, he was pretty active. He went after it. And of course, Bill Bradley was an icon, in New Jersey and in the Senate. Wow.
And basketball star too.
Yeah, Rhodes Scholar, Princeton, basketball star, you name it. He had a great resume. One other thing that the legislative redistricting map has come out. It will change the legislature next year. It's a big year. I want to point out that the governor doesn't run next year, so the legislature, the Senate will be the top of the ticket in 23, and so if they're going to make huge gains on the Republican side, they have to do it next year because the Senate is up that year, and then it's not up again for 4 years. So it'll be an interesting to see how that plays out next year too.
Right, that's right. Because when they redistrict, usually the Senate seats are 6 years, 4 years,
two and four.
Right. 2 4 4. There you go. All right. Well, they say New Jersey, the nickname could be the election state because there always is an election, or we're always talking about the next one. But Governor, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us on so many topics. Hope to have you back.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, if you didn't know already, here in New Jersey, it is no longer legal for retail stores, supermarkets, and food service businesses to hand out plastic bags or polystyrene foam products. We are also the first state to ban grocery stores from distributing paper bags. Shoppers must bring their own bags or purchase a reusable one at checkout. Environmentalists have praised the law as a national model that takes into account the toll posed by all single-use bags. Joining us now, someone who supports that bill, Joanne Jamenden. She's the executive director of New Jersey Clean Communities. Well, Joanne, thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see you. First, I wanted to just talk a little bit about New Jersey Clean Communities, how it got started and what exactly it is that you do.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. New Jersey Clean Communities is actually a statewide nonprofit organization. We've been around since the early 1990s, and we are a litter abatement organization that works with every county and every municipality in New Jersey to promote litter cleanups, litter abatement, education, and enforcement.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about what has changed in the law. We're talking about plastic bags. Who can use plastic bags? Who cannot? Can you fill us in?
Sure. November 4th of 2020, the governor signed the legislative initiative banning all single-use plastic bags throughout New Jersey. So that means no retailers, whether you're a food establishment, a clothing store, or a grocery store, in New Jersey can use plastic bags. And New Jersey's law was unique because they also added a caveat that grocery stores greater than or equal to 2,500 square feet can also not use single-use paper bags. And we're the first state in the nation to do that.
Well, can you talk a little bit about that? Why are paper bags off the table from a conservation standpoint?
Yeah, paper bags, a lot of people, realize the paper is recyclable, but they're also not sustainable from the amount of energy that needs to be used to make them. But I think more importantly, the goal here was to get people to try to go reusable. And the 8 other states that went plastic bag free prior to New Jersey realized that a lot of people were not transitioning to reusables. They were just going to paper. So we went a little farther. New Jersey guesstimate we use 4.4 billion plastic bags every year here in New Jersey. So I think this will be a great stride to getting less litter out there on our streets.
Well, and as you mentioned, the law was signed by Governor Murphy 18 months ago, and it's just taking effect. So how has New Jersey Clean Communities Council supported the plastic bag ban since it was signed into law?
So New Jersey Clean Communities is the only non-state entity that was actually named in the legislation. And our role was to design a public outreach campaign. So we created our logo, Bag Up NJ, to try to get people to bring their bags with them when they go shopping. And it's not just at the grocery store. We want folks to bring reusable bags with them every store they go in, just because that habit becomes a little easier to remember when you're doing it every time you go shopping. We have a toolkit that we developed on our website, which has social media posts, signs, flyers, radio PSAs, video PSAs, to try to help businesses and government and just the general public learn more about the program and be able to share it with others.
Right, and that's at bagupnj.com, correct?
Correct. And we
Right.
wanted people to know whether they were in Salem County or Sussex County, what Bag Up NJ meant. And because that's the whole goal of having a statewide campaign, is name recognition.
Right. Well, how does the new law impact food banks and other organizations that distribute food and other items?
The law was just amended last month that provided a 6-month extension for all food banks. And New Jersey Clean Communities will be providing 500,000 bags to them within the next 6 months.
Okay. Anything else that the general public needs to know, or what they can expect, or what happens if you show up to the grocery store and, forgot to bring my stuff? You're seeing some of the memes going around, people just have a big old armful of produce. What kind of practical advice can you offer?
It happens to the best of us, but produce, you can still get a bag for produce. You can still get a bag for fruits and for your bakery items. You're just not going to be getting the handled single-use plastic bags anymore. If you only have a few items, I'm sure you can make it out to the car. Worst case scenario, if you forget one, you'll have to buy a bag. We are working with the food banks to provide donations of reusable bags through them, and that will be added, that link, for businesses and for residents to be able to donate their old reusable bags to the food banks. That will be posted sometime later this week at bagupnj.com. But this is all about litter abatement. New Jersey has way too much litter on their roads, so a minor inconvenience now to save our waterways and our oceans is a small price to pay.
Right. And that's what the final question is. Ultimately, the end goal is about our waterways, our roadways, our environment. Final thoughts.
The average single-use plastic bag is used for 12 minutes. But if it's littered, it never goes away. It just breaks down into smaller particles. It can harm wildlife. So once again, just going reusable, getting in the habit. They say it takes 28 days to create a new habit. So hopefully by the end of May, it'll be an easy transition.
All right. Well, Joanne, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and explain a little bit more about the new law and how it impacts us all.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Recently, I sat down with advocate Rosemary Becky. She heads up Jersey First. It's a nonprofit aimed at giving all New Jerseyans a voice.
Well, Rosemary, it's so good to see you.
It's great to be here, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Well, Rosemary, you say we are overtaxed here in New Jersey and overregulated. It's one of the most expensive states in the country, and now we're seeing other states cutting taxes to help people deal with inflation, and even New York is passing a tax cut, but not so much in New Jersey, correct?
I know, and we need to get with it. We really need to provide helps for not only our businesses, but for the people of New Jersey. And just as you said, we're seeing all across the country, states with a surplus, and New Jersey is certainly one of those states, but other states are taking the initiative to enact tax cuts, both individual as well as corporate tax cuts. And we need to do the same thing.
Right, right. And we also are seeing people leaving the state because they can't afford to retire here, or once their kids may finish high school or college, they're leaving. So, it's a vicious circle, because then we're losing part of our tax base as well. So what are some of your thoughts on what New Jersey should be doing?
No, you point out a really important problem we're having, and I actually see it every day in my own neighborhood. Every time somebody puts the, senior sign on their lawn, it's not shortly thereafter, they put the moving sign up and they leave the state because it's too expensive to stay here. We need to cut our spending here in New Jersey. It is so important. And we also need to cut our taxes. And we need to take our cues from other states who are enacting, tax cuts across the board. And they're not just doing rebates or gimmicky things like that. They're truly doing income tax cuts.
Well, in the governor's budget, he did say, hey, we're going to give most New Jerseyans who are within a certain bracket $600-700 back. And did I hear you right? You say you think that's a gimmick?
I do. I really do. And I think we ought to be doing across the board tax cuts and lowering the rate, not providing rebates for people, and not, a rebate's a temporary one-shot deal. We ought to be lowering the rates, again, for all New Jerseyans. And we also ought to be looking to do something for our corporations. We have some of the highest corporate taxes in the country. And, we need to make New Jersey more attractive. So in addition to keeping individuals here after the kids graduate from high school, I think we also need to keep businesses here as well and stop them from fleeing to places that have lower taxes and that are more attractive on business regulation as well.
Small businesses, they really are the backbone of our business community in New Jersey. Now, does your group help out with these local businesses? And if so, what are they saying?
We absolutely do. And we talk to small businesses every day. And you continue to hear the same thing over and over, that our tax rates are too high, but also our regulation and oversight of our business is too much, and particularly for those small businesses. We need our small business owners to be doing what they do best and running their businesses, not trying to comply with state regulations.
Yeah, can you talk just a little bit more about those state regulations or what businesses are saying, hey, I'm having a hard enough time keeping up with my payroll. What are some of the things that are happening in New Jersey that may not be happening in other states as far as these regulations go?
We see it every day with our small businesses. I mean, it's just the day-to-day operations and what New Jersey imposes on those small businesses, whether it's in the form of tax regulations and compliance with that, or business licensing requirements. Again, it's just too much for our small businesses, and they want to get back to business.
If people, individuals, businesses want to get in touch with you, find out a little bit more about Jersey First, where can they find you?
You can find us on the internet. It's at jersey1st.org. And you can also find us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter.
Okay. All right. Well, Rosemary, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about an issue that seems like it never goes away. It's on repeat, like some of the songs that get stuck in your head again and again. Very expensive state to live in and to do business in. But we thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Look forward to having you back again.
Thank you.
And that will do it for today. Thank you so much for watching New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we look forward to seeing you back next time.